Hello, my beautiful friends. Thank you so much for stopping by. I am Lauren of Lauren Jean, and I wanted to do a fun little video where I talk about the books that I wish I could erase my memory of in order to read them again. Because I love them so much. I'm going to tell you not in great detail the synopses of these stories, but specifically why I connected to them so deeply, or why these are books I wish I could experience it again. You know what I'm saying? So before we get into it, let me know which books you would wish that you could erase your memory of so that you could read for the first time again. Okay? Go ahead and do that. And while you're down there, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that too. And you know how to do all those things. I really do appreciate it. Some of these books I've read pretty recently, and so you may have already seen me talking about some of these, but some of them I haven't read in a really long time, so definitely just see this list through if you care to know. The first one is probably no shocker if you've watched any of my videos recently, and that is Anne of Green Gables by Ellen Montgomery. You guys, you are kidding me. This book is so good. If you didn't know, this is about the orphan Anne with an E. She accidentally gets placed in this family of a brother and a sister. They wanted to adopt a boy, but instead Anne shows up. And oh my gosh. Okay, so the reason why I love this book and the reason why I wish I could reread it for the first time again is, one, the absolute beautiful descriptions took me by surprise. I had previously to really this book and one other book that I'm going to be talking about in this list really thought that pastoral descriptions or descriptions of landscape really wasn't for me. But she proved me wrong in this. Miss Ellen Montgomery proved me wrong because her descriptions, let me try to find one. Okay, listen to the trees talking in their sleep, she whispered as he lifted her to the ground. What nice dreams they have. Okay, you're kidding me. The other reason why I love this so much is just how much I deeply connected to Anne as a character. I just feel like she's a real person and I love her so much. There was something about her that reminded me of the child that I was, and I just really appreciated, I don't know, I just never have met a character while reading a book that felt like who I used to be, and it reconnected me to that little girl, you know, and I'll be forever grateful for that. Next is one I also read pretty recently, and that is Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy. This one took me by such surprise because I figured I would like it, but I didn't know I would love it. And I did. It was like a slow burn. A slow burn romance between me and this book, okay? I think as the story progressed, as I got to know the characters and also Hardy's writing style, it really helped me to understand and come to really love this book, and it makes me so excited to continue on into Hardy's other work. Again, this is the other book actually that I was talking about with pastoral descriptions of the landscape. The way he described certain things was just very beautiful, sometimes really over my head, but it didn't cause me to not enjoy my time or enjoy my reading experience. I also really love how Hardy wrote women. Like the main character, Bathsheba Everdeen, she does have her flaws and she is very human, which I loved. But also, I just feel like you're not going to see a lot of authors, specifically male authors, depicting strong women in the Victorian era. So I really did appreciate that. My next book is The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon. This one was so good. I binged this so fast. I listened to the audiobook while I was reading it, and it's like a big book, but oh my gosh, I loved it. This is all about a real woman from the 1700s. She was a midwife, and wow, what a midwife she was. This book really, it didn't take me by surprise because I figured I would love it, But the reason why I wish I could erase my memory of it again is because of the atmosphere. The atmosphere and the way Ariel Lawhon writes her stories. I love her writing style. I didn't know that Martha Ballard, the main character, was a real person until the very end of this book. And oh my gosh, I just love that this author does this. This is like something she does. She goes and finds real people in history and then writes their story in a fictionalized sense, but trying to stay close to their real story, or, you know, staying true to maybe how it would have been or it could have been. I loved Martha Ballard, her family, the way that strong women standing up for women who are in trouble or women who are suffering. I think those are the main things why I wish I could erase my memory. But the atmosphere, you feel like you're literally her walking through this frozen tundra of landscape. This book also really awakened in me the desire to read more historical fiction set in this time period where it's like colonial America. I really liked that, surprisingly so. This next one was a love at first sight kind of book, where Far From the Madding Crowd was a slow burn. This was a love at first sight. The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. This book was so good, okay? I loved every second of it. I started the audiobook and I could not stop listening to it because it was so beautifully written. I loved Adrienne Young's writing style, but also the story, because it felt so literary, like literary fiction with a mystery involved, and then you throw in magical realism. I just feel like this is my cup of tea. Okay? It was so good, and I loved the themes of motherhood. I just couldn't stop reading it once I started. I felt from the beginning that it was a special reading experience, and it was. I loved it so much. The next one is kind of in the same vein as June Farrow, but that is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. I love this book. Okay, I know some people don't. But I don't know, it was just so good. I think this book in particular, and why it's on this list, is because it kind of awoke my newfound love of literary mystery. So not just straight up mystery, but there's like a deeper story happening, and there's family drama, and you don't know what's going on, who to trust. Secrets are being hidden and then revealed. I loved this book. Plus the atmosphere. Okay, you're at a summer camp where a wealthy family owns it and some sketchy things are going down. That's all you need to know. It is so good. And something else that I loved about this book was it can be really tricky to do multiple timelines of stories, you know? But the way that Liz Moore did it is at the beginning of each chapter, she would have list of times that you're jumping from, which looks overwhelming, but honestly it wasn't. It felt very clear because she wrote it and highlighted the one that you're in, if that makes sense. So anyways, her writing style I just absolutely adored. I immediately went and read Liz Moore's other book, Long Bright River, after this, and it's interesting because Long Bright River felt like this book but inverse of very, very wealthy people, and then in the other one like really, really poor people and desperate people, but dealing with the same issues of alcohol and drug abuse and mysteries with family and family drama. So I recommend that one too, but this one just has a special place in my heart. The next one is one that I am so happy to have read the book because I knew the story so well, and that is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I think the number one reason why I wish I could reread this again is to discover Jane Austen's humor. Like, she is so witty and so funny. She was making big commentary on society at the time, and that's pretty risky as a younger woman in this time period. So I just really adore Jane Austen. I was like literally laughing out loud, and I think I just was not expecting that. I think the movies just aren't really able to convey her humor and her voice as well as the book can. So anyways, I just loved it. I love this book so much. This next one is such a special book to me, and that is The Magician's Nephew by C.S. Lewis. This is actually the prequel to the Narnia series that he wrote, like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe series. This actually was written the very last book, so there is some argument on when you should read this book, but I read it first, okay? And I just totally loved it. I completely binged it. I was doing some sewing work where I listened to audiobooks or podcasts or whatever. I listened to this book and then I immediately re-listened to this book because it was so good. I think why this book holds such a special and dear place in my heart is because it was the one that really awakened in me the reality that fiction is a big reflection of Jesus. And if there's anything good in anything, it's a reflection of him. I loved that. And also, this was one of my first, it might have been my very first books to read after taking at least a year, maybe more than a year off of reading fiction. I just fell in love with it. It was so good. There's so many quotes in here that I could read you, but I don't have any words. I knew that I would probably love The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which I do, but this book like really, really has a special place in my heart. This next one might seem like a silly thing to some of you, but I would really love to experience this book again for the first time. It's Crime and Poetry by Amanda Flower. This is a little cozy mystery series. This is the first book in that series, and it's called A Magical Bookshop Mystery. First of all, I absolutely adore this series. I love Amanda Flower, but also this along with this. I think I read this one right after I read this. So it was like fiction was coming back to me, and it was such a gentle place to land. I don't know how else to describe it. It just felt like coming home. I don't know. I just love cozy mysteries, and if you've been around my channel since the OG, you know that, but I absolutely I don't know. It felt like coming home. That's what it felt like when I read this book. So that's why it holds such a special place. One that I don't have the physical copy of, but I should, is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. This one wrecked me. Okay, like if you're a mother, tread lightly, okay? But that is particularly why I loved it so much, because it writes on the power of motherhood and the connection between mothers and their children. If you didn't know, Hamnet is the name of one of Shakespeare's real children who died. And this is told from the perspective of Shakespeare's wife. Actually, I don't even think Shakespeare is even named. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure Shakespeare is never named in this book, but there's allusions to him. But it follows the mother's perspective, and make sure you read this when you're mentally stable, okay? Because it is very sad, but it's just heart gripping and heart wrenching. I really want to reread this to see if it hits the same, but I also am like kind of nervous to read it, you know? Also, another reason why this one is special to me is because it's really opened my eyes to Shakespeare, and I'm wanting to get into his work as well. One that is probably not going to be surprising to anyone is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This held my absolute favorite book spot for a lot of years, and for good reason, because the sisters. Okay, I think that's one of the main reasons why I love this book so much and connected to it so deeply is the sisterhood in this book. It literally is like not comparable to any other book, in my opinion, okay? The March sisters are just on another level, and they did remind me so much of me and my sisters. If you have a sisterly bond with anyone, I think I think you'll get it. You'll understand their connection. Another reason why I love this so much was the fact that Louisa May Alcott was writing such strong female characters during this time period, and the things she would say, but then also the biblical themes and the biblical like virtue and goodness in this book. I loved it. I just absolutely loved it. I'm due for a reread. It is an all-time favorite. The next one is such a special book in my heart, and that is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. I knew I'd probably like this book because I had heard about it when it came out, that it was cozier, that it was following this group of octogenarians, and I knew that I would probably love that, but the way this book has just seeped itself into my heart is so special. When I read this, I was primarily reading a lot of audiobooks and not physically reading it, but I actually physically read this book, and I felt so proud of myself for doing that, because at the time I just felt like I was not a very smart reader. Like, I felt kind of dumb, to be honest with you. So the fact that I read this book physically, that's probably an eye roll statement to some of you, but to me it wasn't. It was a really big deal. And I also like flew through this book. I fell in love with these characters. These septuagenarians, octogenarians are just everything, okay? They feel so real. They feel like your family. They feel like you would protect them. Like in real life, they feel real. And I just love that Richard Osman gave us this world, this story, and these characters, and that they're based on real people. He actually went to a like retirement village and got inspired to write this cozy mystery series. And it's just so special and endearing, and I love them. Like, I love them, okay? The next one is such a fun one, and one that I truly do wish I could reread for the first time because I loved it. That was The Decagon House Murders by Yukito Ayatsuji. Y'all, this book was so fun. The atmosphere in this book was perfect. You're literally set on an isolated island in a storm, in a house, and you keep getting a nursery rhyme, I think it's a nursery rhyme, that keeps getting revealed to this group of students, and one by one they get killed off while they are staying in this house the shape of a decagon. Oh my gosh, it was so good. And yes, it's very reminiscent to the one I'm about to talk about. If you know, you know, but I loved it. I loved the reveals. I also loved how this author gave these characters names of famous mystery authors. I thought that was so fun. So like one of these characters is nicknamed Agatha, and I can't remember the other one, so that's the one that I remember, but that's not their real name, and that actually plays a part in the reveal of the mystery. Oh my gosh, it was so clever. This was such a smart and clever mystery, okay? I loved it. I absolutely loved it. The one that I was talking about, and I don't have a physical copy, is And Then There Were None by Queen Agatha Christie. Okay, this was my very first Agatha Christie to ever read, and I had the best time. The atmosphere, okay, you're also set on an island, and I think there's a storm happening. It's been a really long time. I would love to reread this one, but I think why I loved this so much was because I realized that I love Agatha Christie, but also I love classic mysteries. And that was something I didn't know if I would or not at the time that I had read this, because again, the lies of I'm not smart enough, or I don't want to, you know, those are old books, like will I be able to understand the language, or will it just kind of go over my head? No, I loved it. So I'm so happy that I gave it a try, and I would actually really love to revisit this one pretty soon. Another one that might seem pretty random, I actually haven't talked about this author on my channel as like lately at all, but I read Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid quite a long time ago, and it really, I think why it felt so powerful to me when I read it, it's following this group of siblings, and they kind of have a really bad father. Relatable, okay? I'll just leave it at that. There is one particular scene between the oldest daughter and the dad. The dad is like trying to come back, and okay, this is like mild spoiler for this book. Not like, I don't feel like it's a major thing, but anyways, just so you know, minor spoiler ahead, okay? There's a scene where the dad and the oldest daughter have a conversation, and he is saying, I want to come back in your life, but it's kind of been this cycle of that. Also relatable, okay? Nina, the oldest sister, is like, you know, I forgive you and I love you, but we can't be in each other's life. And the way that that healed something in me, I just related so deeply to it, and I loved it. I loved it so much. So I think for that reason alone, I wish that I could experience that again in that special way, you know, but I loved it. So there you have it. These are all the books that I wish I could erase my memory over to read again for the first time. Let me know which ones you would like to reread for the very first time. I would love, 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 love to hear down below. Let me know. But until next time, my friends, I will see you in my next bookish video. Bye.